Hi, it's Steve with Desert Dwellers, and today we're doing a little gun cleaning. This time I'm going to be cleaning my Smith & Wesson M&P-22, M&P 15-22, 22 AR-15 style gun. Now the first thing I'm going to do, of course, make sure it's unloaded. Pulling that bolt open, obviously there's no magazine in it, and we can tell there is no ammo in this gun whatsoever. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the scope. And I happen to have a suppressor on here today. Used it with the suppressor the other day, out rabbit hunting with some friends. So we're going to take that off. Now, on my previous video with the Colt 22, you notice I put my solvent into a peanut butter or peanut jar glass. I do this because when I clean my suppressors, I put them in there, let them soak for a couple days. So, but today we're going to just worry about this one. Okay, so we're got it locked open, but we're going to close it because we're going to break it down. Pop the pins, and I'm going to pop off both pins because I'm going to take the upper completely off. Because the lower, not a whole lot of moving parts in here. All you really have is your hammer and your trigger. Do they get dirty? Yeah, they get a little bit dirty, but you wipe it down a little bit, and I just usually use a little rim oil and just spray in there, just a touch. Okay, wipe down the excess, and then set that aside because there's not much that you're going to get hurt in there. Okay, so the rest. Pull your arming lever out so you can get to your bolt. The arming lever is going to pop out. I'm going to set these stuff aside. Now, again, this is, take the off to crush washer. I generally will clean these again from the chamber side of the gun. Again, it's not very long. I could use this side. It's not a big deal one way or the other. The accuracy of the gun ain't that great to start with, so little solvent. And actually, I guess I'm going to have to go from the muzzle side because that's going to go a little bit long. So we are going to do muzzle side, mainly because I just don't want to add a second rod to this guy. I'm being kind of lazy today. I said in the previous video, most people won't clean their gun from the muzzle side because if you scrape up the crown on your more accurate rifles and stuff, it will throw your bullet off a little bit. Some people think that, at least. So that's why they do that. Me, I said it's a little 6-inch barrel. It's not the most accurate gun, never has been. It is fun to shoot. We're gonna jig in there with the patch, and see, the patch came out actually not even that bad considering. So I'm gonna run it through the brush, the wire brush. They have both nylon and brass. I prefer the brass over the nylon. I don't know, there's probably no really big difference between them. And I think I got my laser turned on. That's okay. I didn't want to take my laser off because it's harder to take off and on. You got to play around with it more. So we're going to run another patch through there. And sometimes they don't want to go in. Yeah, I'm getting some dirt out of there, but I'm not a perfectionist. Some people will clean every last grain of dirt out of their guns, and I used to be that way when I was a teenager. But when I had one gun, that was one thing. Now I have a half dozen guns, and it's a pain in the ass. Take you a whole week to clean these things. All right, so that's good enough for the barrel for me. But now, let me find my little brush. Got a little brass metal brush here. The threads. Now, using the suppressor, of course, it keeps the gas from blowing out easily, so it builds up, and it builds up residue. So I'm going to clean the threads out and around the crown. Most guns you don't have to do this with. It's not a big deal. I do it. I do run the suppressor on this one a lot. So, and then you're going to have splatter everywhere. Take a rag, wipe it down, wipe the muzzle. Looks pretty good. And then we're going to do a little bit on the bolt face, which is deep down the side, right down in there. You see it right there by my finger. Okay. Now, used to have a better. Here I'm going to use a acid brush. See if we can get in there. Now this is kind of cleans the feed ramp, bolt face. Could use a little bit stiffer brush maybe. This ain't the best one, but that's it. I'm not also looking for perfection anymore right now. Wipe off the excess solvent. Getting your fingers in here sometimes ain't the easiest trick in the world. That's good. Alrighty, so the thing is looking okay. So I haven't had no real problems with this gun ever. I'm going to use the back of it, and my finger does a bit down the side. I'm going to wipe up that solvent before I put in the lubricant. Okay, so got some solvent in there. Now the lubricant, again, the rim oil I like to spray. I'm going to spray a little bit down into the barrel. Use the jig and one patch to kind of spread it evenly down through there and wipe out the excess all at the same time. Obviously the bullet travels down the barrel, so you do want to lubricate that. I'm going to spray a little bit on the bolt face and throughout the inside here. Now, this is all polymer. There's nothing in here that's going to rust, of course. But I am going to put the suppressor back on, and we'll actually go and clean that some other day. Oop, forgot the crush washer. Huh. Now, most crush washers are designed for a single time use. Because as you tighten down your flash guard, whatever, your flash hider, it crushes it to get it lined up exactly right. And they say to always replace it every time you do it. I don't. I mean, I switch back from the suppressor to flash hider. I just make sure it doesn't loosen up too much. Okay, so we're going to set that aside. And now we've got the actual bolt assembly for this guy. Okay, so we're going to take it apart now. To get this bolt assembly apart, you've got your return spring here, and you got your spring guide rod. Now it slips through here and kind of catches on this little notch. So you're going to push it back a little bit, lift it up out of this notch, and the spring comes out. And then this pulls out forward, and then this separates and so forth. Now this is where you have all your movement in this gun. So I'm wiping the excess crud off these little rails that the bolt slides along. Right. The guide rod for the spring, the return spring. Wipe it down. Again, wipe the excess off. And if the stuff is on too heavy, take a little wire brush to it if you want to. This one doesn't seem to be that bad. Set that aside. The spring you can kind of wipe down if you want, no big deal. But your bolt, and here's your bolt. This we want to get cleaned up a little bit. So we get our wire brush, a little bit of solvent. Scrub it in here, scrub across the bolt face. Now you want to get these bolt faces clean. Because the extractor, which is this piece here, you know, if it gets dirty and stuff, it won't pull the spent casing out of the chamber properly. So you want to kind of get that cleaned up pretty good. The rails, by the rails I mean the little piece where it slides along that, get in there and scrub those up a little bit. And then I don't got, that one's too big, so I'm going to use the other little brush down here where the firing pin is. And rub into these rails a little bit more down here. And you can see it's kind of messy with all that solvent, so we're going to clean her up, dry her out a little bit, get that solvent. So you want to get the solvent out before you apply your lubricant. Take the rag and run it in here where the firing pin goes. Now for those rails, can't quite get the rag down inside there, so I'm going to take a patch and my small screwdriver, wrap it around the tip, and run it, double up a little bit, and run it back and forth a little bit, just to clean out in there. And then we're going to do the other side. And it all depends on you on how clean you actually want to make it. This is the first time I've cleaned this gun in probably 3 years. So you think I'd spend a little bit more time with it, but you know what? It shoots fine. I rarely ever have a jam, maybe 1 or 2 jams a year out of several thousand rounds. So it's just not that worrisome to me. Okay, so we're going to get that. Now, we're going to reassemble. So, you put it on our rails. Okay, so you know your back of your guide rod's going to go here, your front's going to go through here, so obviously the bolt face, the front of it, you want it away from the back of it. So you're going to slide it in, and we do it. We can go ahead and put a little spray both on the metals here, and then here. Now right now we're not going to worry about the excess because we're going to wipe that off a little bit later. I'm going to slip it in. And it's a snug little fit. Okay, wipe fingers off. Okay, so guide rod, you're going to slip through the little hole. Now getting it back in there is a little harder than taking it out. You got to pull the spring back and then hold this. Yeah, I'm trying to put it on backwards myself. Let's do that again. What happens when you need glasses and you don't use glasses that much? Okay, so we're going to run that through the spring. Now the guide rod, you got to keep it held here. It's kind of, you need like 4 hands. And then get it lined up. You got to pull the. We don't got it quite sitting in the right position I need it in, but there we go. And then it slips into that little groove, and then moves nice and freely. Now I can wipe up the excess. I might put a little spray again across the spring because there is some movement across that spring. So, charging handle, it's just made out of plastic, polymer, slips in place, such. Usually easier to, on these models, to put it upside down. You got to get that in first because that notch has to go in there. That, slap it all the way forward. Then you're going to lay it back in here. Snap those pins in. See that? Nice and smooth. I don't like to dry fire rim fire guns, so I won't pull a trigger on it. But that's basically it.